Hello and welcome to our METCO presentation. Before we get started, let us introduce ourselves. So, hello, my name is Thompson. I'm in I'm a senior at Brookline High School.
My name is Layla Nicolas, and I'm a junior at Westwood High School.
My name is Trixie Ogbebor. I'm a senior at Needham High School.
My name is Bryson DeBarros. I'm a senior at North High School.
My name is Ronnie Cobb, and I'm a junior at Wellesley High School.
My name is Paige Kenny. I'm a junior at Swampscott High School.
My name is Aybar, and I'm a junior at Melrose High School.
My name is Saniyah Green. I'm a sophomore at Swampscott High School.
As a group, we wanted to research the historical implications of systematic racism and how the history brings us to where we are today. The following presentation is what we discover as a group and features our ideas of how we resolve the effects of the systematic oppression. This presentation is a representation of our action plan to educate people on our history because we believe learning and relearning about race is what is needed to be anti-racist.
So in 1619, 10 slaves arrived in America in a settlement near Jamestown. Slavery was a part of the founding of the United States, with it even starting before the Revolutionary War. So the 1619s kickstarts the timeline of historical events that established and continued systematic racism in the United States. So with the start of slaves coming to America, in 1865, slavery is then abolished with the 15th Amendment, but has a loophole of being convicted of a crime and being found a criminal. In 1866, vagrancy laws included employment, unemployment, homelessness, and unlawful assembly without a white man's presence. So these laws basically criminalized Black freedom. In 1877, the Jim Crow era was notorious for extreme violence, segregation, and hate crimes against Black Americans. In 1960, these Black families moved into northern cities from Harlem and Chicago and Roxbury and Baltimore, up from the South to escape the persecution and the violence from the South, which leads us to redlining. In 1934, redlining segregated Black people into inner cities and deprived people from obtaining generational wealth and caused generational health conditions. In 1971, the war on drugs and the war on crime turned out to be a war on Black and brown bodies. A member of the Nixon campaign, John Elkin, wrote the quote, "We knew we couldn't make it illegal to either be against the war or Black, but by getting the public to associate hippies with marijuana and the Blacks with heroin, and then criminalizing both heavily, we could disrupt those communities, and we could arrest their leaders, raid their homes, break up their meetings, and vilify them night after night on the evening news. Did we know we were lying about the drugs? Of course we did." And that is exactly what happened due to the war on drugs and crime. Mass incarceration broke up families and destroyed these communities.
Within the four types of migration, the one most commonly known to us in around urban Boston is immigration. Boston is and has been for many years primarily a minority city, with most of its residents consisting of racial or ethnic minorities. These minorities have often immigrated from various countries around the world to Boston. These individuals contribute a great deal to the greater good of our community, with more than 1/3 of the workforce and industries being made up of immigrants. The next few slides are primarily dedicated to statistics showing the importance of immigrants within our community. It displays their impacts as well as roles. According to an article written by the Boston Globe, immigration has transformed Greater Boston over the last 3 decades. 91% of Greater Boston's new population growth comes from international immigration. Without immigrants and people of color, the Massachusetts population would be declining, not growing. I think that notion is missed by a lot of people. Guatemalans have become the largest group of foreign-born residents and represent 30% of that city's Latino population. I read out these statistics in quotes to convey the large role immigrants hold within their surroundings. This bar graph displays the many different cultures and ethnicities present within the Boston community, including Dominican Republic, China, Haiti, El Salvador, Vietnam, Jamaica, Cape Verde, Colombia, and many more. As you may know, the immigrants that take residence in Boston have created a home for themselves, many creating it long ago, and over time, their homes have slowly been taken away from them due to the effect of redlining.
Redlining is a system used by the government to segregate cities. Color-coded maps were used to depict whether a neighborhood was a safe place for banks to give loans. Redlining made it difficult for Black families to own homes because their neighborhood was red on the map and deemed hazardous.
Due to the restrictions of various services or goods by the federal government agencies, local government stopped Black families from owning and profiting from homes. Additionally, it also placed Black families in neighborhoods of poverty with minimal investment from the government. For example, schools that are in green districts received a lot more funding than schools in red districts.
To sum it up, the government stopped minorities from affording homes and being able to live in certain communities in Boston by restricting funds and resources that would make it possible for minorities to live in such communities.
With that, redlining also limited healthy resources for the Black community. Healthy food options are not accessible for lower income families because of the higher prices for healthy foods, which leads us to liquor stores and corner stores that are placed in the city of Boston, more than any other place outside of Boston. Roxbury, Dorchester have about 3 to 4 liquor stores in the area that just don't sell liquors, but vape, cigarettes, and high cholesterol snacks, such as sugar donuts, Doritos, and hot flaming chips. There's a corner store in every corner in the city of Boston with a variety of healthy snacks too. There's also unhealthy fast food places, cheap fast food places that are affordable for low-income families. There's no affordable healthy food places placed in the city of Boston. Due to this causes kids and adults to develop diabetes, obesity, and other health problems such as drug and alcohol addiction.
Due to the long-term effects of redlining, gentrification has recently been increasing throughout the years in our city of Boston. But what is gentrification and why is it a problem? Gentrification is the influx of buying, renovating, and building of new houses in the lower income neighborhoods, which in our case is mostly Black or people of color communities. This is due to the increase of change of wealth, seemingly educated individuals or families who are mostly white wanting to move back into the area. The reasoning of gentrification in lower income communities is due to mostly the price of the community land and also the poor state of the community as a whole. Overall, it's just cheaper for companies to buy in communities such as Roxbury than it is to buy in Fenway. Those already established Black communities are seeing their once family-owned restaurants being bought out or moved to fit in new condos or even worse, a more expensive food alternative. The ones who are scrambling pre-gentrification are now being kicked out of their homes due to the uptick in rent. This new expensive changes in the community are forcing those who have been there for years to leave or worse, be homeless. It is not as if gentrification increased the people's wealth, but everything around them.
Right now, rent in Boston is increasing, and many people are starting to get kicked out of their old project homes to renovate them and to rent them out at higher prices. The average household income in Boston is $71,115 a year, and the average amount of money a household in Boston spends a year is $83,279. There are more jobs being added in Boston that are targeted towards people who have college degrees, and many Black people only have a high school diploma, or if not, are high school dropouts. And for this reason, it is hard for them to maintain jobs and maintain their family. There used to be many helpful resources for low-income families such as EBT, SNAP, Section 8 housing, and more, but they're starting to get rid of them. And now you have to earn a certain amount of money to qualify for some of those benefits. When it comes to finding homes in Boston, you have to earn a certain amount of money to live in a specific building. And based on how much you earn,
they take off a small percentage off their monthly rent.
As my fellow METCO interns have demonstrated, immigration, redlining, gentrification, lack of business opportunities, poor housing options all impact young members of the Black community. They continue to be affected in their inability to provide for their families and also sometimes experience violence in the community. Over the years, African Americans have been treated poorly because of their skin tone and often perceived as a threat to society. Often gangs become a safe haven for people without hope. In addition, police brutality has been happening to our fellow African American males and females, all because of our skin tone and culture. Racism has no age.
This presentation was not supposed to find a one-slot solution to these problems, but to show the overlapping targeted oppression that has been placed on the Black communities. These problems affect every aspect of the lives of people in these communities, such as financially, physically, and mentally. One way we can start to make systematic change is through consistently learning and unlearning about our history and ourselves. We are here to start the conversation and to show that these are systems that have been put into place to directly harm our people. As we're learning that it isn't enough to claim that we just aren't racist and that we have to be actively anti-racist, it's important to acknowledge that the best way to be anti-racist is through doing the research and actively trying to find ways to stop Black oppression. The continuation of this conversation will show the change of this racist narrative and overall create more solutions to help the Black community as well as the Boston community.